There's a day for everything. Dez Bryant making it clear that he has some issues. In the NFL, 30 days of celebrating anything can feel excessive. We live in a world where reducing any of those things down to zero is just an impossibility. It's almost like checking a box. Here it is. We've checked the box. We're doing what it is that we believe we're supposed to do.
Now a man who is still waiting on his sea monkeys to arrive. Ricky Cobb.
Dez Bryant taking to social media to share his thoughts on Pride Month, June, as many of you no doubt know, and unless you're living in a cave somewhere, it's kind of hard not to know in American culture. June is Pride Month, and we have been seeing in the NFL about 2/3 of NFL teams have commemorated Pride Month in some way online. A lot of teams changing their logo to a rainbow color form of the logo. And Dez Bryant, former Dallas Cowboys wide receiver, saying it's gay players in the NFL, but forcing it in people's faces, especially children, can send the wrong message. Football is a real community like the gay community. Imagine telling gays they have to advocate for straight people. They probably would have a problem. Those are the words of Dez Bryant. And June is a bit of a lightning rod, particularly among sports fans, in terms of watching how teams, NFL, MLB, go across the world of professional sports, how teams are choosing to commemorate Pride Month. And with it being an issue that is divisive in American culture, period, between people, obviously bringing it into sports is going to call up some of these questions. Dez, a retired player, of course, with the freedom to speak on this. It's interesting that we don't hear so much from current players on the matter, and I can certainly understand why they would want to sidestep it, whatever their personal beliefs are on how the month is celebrated. But Dez Bryant making it clear that he has some issues. In the NFL, again, very, very forward with this. The Buffalo Bills, as we reported on the show yesterday, even with links on their website directing people to LGBT resources and so forth, which some people thought crossed a line. But then again, advocates on the LGBT side of the equation are critical of the, I believe, as we speak, and we'll find out later in the program when I speak to Armando Salguero what the best estimate is now, but I believe it's 10 NFL teams that have yet to officially in any way acknowledge Pride Month to this point. It's only June the 3rd, of course. I think last year somewhere on the order of about 25% of NFL teams opted out on Pride. So, again, an issue where, a lot of people feel that there are other issues in society that only get a day. And we've got now in our society, everything has a day. It's always National Submarine Sandwich Day. That's not today, I don't think. But there's a day for everything. There is awareness for everything. In our society. If you look at the calendar, I think virtually every day of the year is the day for something. And of course, there are lots of things that we celebrate, but we only give it a day. Veterans Day, right? Memorial Day that we just celebrated. Independence Day. And then there are other things that get months. And I think part of what we're seeing with some people is just preemptive fatigue. That 30 days of celebrating anything can feel excessive. Like it could be, I don't think that I even would want there to be titties and margarita month. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like take your favorite things in life, whatever they are, and at a certain point, maybe you get tired of hearing about it when it goes on and on and on. Maybe that's part of what's going on here, part of what Dez Bryant is expressing, but certainly we're in for another 27 and a half days of it, no matter how you feel about the issue. It'll be interesting to see if other athletes have anything to say about this as the month goes on. I think after talking about all of that, I would be in favor of taking a quick Linda Carter break here, guys. Can you help me with this? Give me a little. There we go. You know what? Maybe I'm going to make myself a hypocrite. If there was a Linda Carter month, I'm probably all right with that. I don't know that I would get tired of that one. What if we had Linda Carter awareness? I would be a spokesperson for that. Maybe I could be the national spokesperson for Linda Carter awareness. Are you aware of Linda Carter right now? You are. If you have a pulse, would you just look at her? I kind of, sort of, almost know her. One of the finest developments in the history of Super 70s sports right there is that Linda Carter knows who I am. My God, have a look at her. Has there ever been a better looking human being? Right, and I say that right. Fortunately, see, sometimes production is outstanding. Right as I say that, here we are, and look at her. First
she
of
was
all,
kind of cute.
She's naked, you know. She's showing a lot of skin. She's kind of got like the, look at those long legs for days here with the sea monkey mother. Only $1. You know, at only $1, you had to ask yourself back in those days, can you afford not to buy sea monkeys? And then you could just,
they're also
ogle her.
Ricky. They're also so eager
long.
to please. Look at that. They even say it right there. So eager to please.
Whoa, look at that. Look at her. She's eager to please. That is a pretty big smile on Father Sea Monkey's face there. Ron, he looks pretty happy. What's not to like? Apparently lives in a fucking castle as well.
Yep.
Very
hey, by the way, it's National Egg Day.
Sea monkeys. It's that. See what I'm talking about? Why don't eggs get a month?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
National Egg Day.
Don't eggs deserve a month? Just think of all the work that chickens have done through the years, squeezing those fuckers out so that we can enjoy breakfast. No celebration whatsoever. Just a day. They get a day, but by gosh, other people get a month. I leave it to you to decide what the appropriate amount of time is for any celebration. I will tell you that not enough time has elapsed yet for me between the Shedeur Sanders draft drama and right now, because we're still talking about it. I'm looking forward to seeing what Shedeur Sanders can do on the field. And we're going to find out if he should have slipped in the draft or not. But for the moment, we're still talking about why he slipped. And in this case, very specifically, his father, the great Deion Sanders, has some thoughts.
We've always been in front of the camera, so they know how to navigate. They know how to handle themselves. Yeah. And you're not going to catch them in no foolery and no mess. You're not, when you sit up there and say something like he went in a meeting unprepared, like, dude, Shedeur Sanders, who's had 6 different coordinators, who has still functioned and went up, leveled up every time we brought somebody new in, and you're going to tell me he was every situation. You're going to tell me he had on headphones.
All right, Deion questioning, among other things, you're going to say that he was wearing headphones. Deion taking exception to that. That was from Asante Samuel's podcast, Say What Needs to Be Said. Deion on there talking about Shedeur and the rumors that allegedly he did things such as go into interviews with teams wearing headphones. Now, look, everything that Deion said on the surface, and here we are. I think this is what some people are imagining that Shedeur's interviews look like. Is that, I think that's Brian Daboll there back in the background there. Shedeur going in to talk to the New York Giants, and he had his headphones on, and then he just spread some toys out on the floor. He was making vroom vroom sounds as he was moving the cars around. That's what some people would have you think happened. Deion would have you believe that he handled everything completely professionally and that this is all absolutely bullshit, that he didn't interview well. The truth, as it so often does, probably lingers somewhere in between those 2 points. And I'm willing to say closer to Deion's version of the story than Shedeur down in the floor with coloring books and, absolutely making a fool of himself. But clearly something happened because NFL teams are in the business of winning. And as I've said before, no problem. What did Deion go back in 89? Third? I think he was the third pick in the draft coming out of Florida State. You guys can fact check me on that. He certainly went high in round 1. So NFL teams, they draft people with all kinds of problems. They draft people with red flags all the time. And I promise you, no matter how Shedeur interviewed, if they really thought that he had needle-moving ability, that he was one of the finest quarterback prospects that we've seen in the last decade, he would have gone higher. But the combination of him just being, I don't want to say a guy, he's a good prospect, but every year there are a handful of good prospects at the quarterback position that come out of college. Some years are stronger than others. This year may have been a little bit of a down year compared to the last couple. I'm being told Deion was drafted 5th by the Falcons in 89. So Deion's issues, and remember him going around shirtless, Jerry curls, chains around his neck, hanging out with MC Hammer. No problem. It's like, you know what? You are a once-in-a-generation shutdown cornerback. We're going to draft you. That's why Deion went 5th and Shedeur went in the 5th. There's a big difference here. And whatever Deion says, and look, I agree, it seems weird to me that Shedeur Sanders would just fuck up and botch his interviews, if in fact that's what happened, because Deion is a fucking coach at a major program. As he said, Shedeur's been around the NFL his entire life. If anybody should know how to carry himself in a situation like that, it would be Shedeur Sanders, which I think makes it all the more concerning if he did not. And so that probably counted against him. Maybe he went in and he was mediocre, and people looked at it and said, well, hey, wait a minute. Mediocre looks worse than mediocre when you're Shedeur Sanders, and you ought to damn well know how to conduct your business more than the average kid. So we'll see what happens. The reports out of Cleveland, I'm hearing that he's looking better than Dylan Gabriel to this point. We'll talk to Armando Salguero about that a little later in the program and see what he has to say. Here's some headphones that you probably wouldn't want to wear in Cleveland. I hope Shedeur doesn't have a pair of these. By the way, these only play AM radio in the anguished cries of Cleveland Browns fans. Look at that. Why can't we still have nice things in society? Why are these not being made? Why are there so many great things that used to be made that don't get made anymore? Where are the NFL pencils? Remember how much we loved NFL pencils when we were growing up? How about the little NFL helmets that were a quarter? You just put your quarter in, crank it, and see who you got. It was like, God, it was like a slot machine for children. It was the best thing in the world. They don't have those now. I passed. They still have the shitty machines at the front of Walmart and Target and all those kinds of places, or at least Walmart. Where are the mini helmets? Why can't we still have nice things, God damn it? Let me now bring in one of the nicest things that we have on this show. I speak, of course, of the international streaming star who joins me from Nashville, Tennessee. He is, of course, Ronnie T-Shirts. And Ronnie, what do you make of Dez Bryant's comments here? Pride Month kicking off, 30 days of celebration of LGBTQ plus community and issues and everything. And of course, as happens every June, the online bickering begins.
Yeah, man. I mean, Dez has every right to say and think what he wants. And quite honestly, I mean, I didn't see anything wrong with what he said. I didn't feel like it was an anti-gay statement by any stretch of the imagination. I don't know. I kind of am a fan of of not pandering to anybody, and I feel like that's what the NFL and Major League Baseball and all these other professional leagues do, and companies for that matter. It's pretty interesting. It's just complete pandering. It's all about capitalism and trying to make money. Because if you'll go and look at and if I'm wrong about this, I'm just using them as an example, but I think like BMW. Like if you look at BMW, they'll change their avatar on social media in the U.S. To something pride related. But if you look at their same like their avatar for BMW Qatar, BMW Saudi Arabia, they're not, and so they're just absolutely pandering to whatever they think is going to make them money. It just, I would like it. I guess I'd be more, I'd like it better if you just knew this is truly how these companies or these organizations felt, and they are just like, this is how I feel and this is what we're going to do. But then you see all these little differences. I don't know. I like it when a company recognizes things internally. So a big consumer products company, they have thousands and thousands of employees in the United States. They can send out an internal email saying Happy Pride Month, recognizing the fact that they know that they have people that are gay that work for them. Or, Happy Yom Kippur, because they know they've got Jewish people working for them. And just the list goes on and on and on. You don't have to make everything public, Ricky. It's pandering and I don't like it. I just don't like the pandering part of it.
I think you just tapped into what bothers a lot of people about it. I don't think that, now look, as I've said before, our 10% rule, which you have told me may be a little bit conservative, but let's just call it the 10% rule, that 10% of people are assholes. All right. So with that being said, there's always going to be that element of racism in society. There's going to be that element of, anti-gay sentiment in society. There's going to be that element of anti-Semitism in society, et cetera, et cetera. These things are terrible. We should not tolerate them, but let's face it, we live in a world where reducing any of those things down to zero is just an impossibility. Okay, you want to minimize this kind of behavior as much as you can. I think that a big part of it, I think you've tapped into something here, Ron. It is the virtue signaling aspect of it and the phoniness of it. Mm-hmm. It's like you're watching these teams, they're doing this. I think it's almost like checking a box. Here it is. We've checked the box. We're doing what it is that we believe we're supposed to do. We're an ally. Don't turn your sabers towards us. They don't want the negative criticism. It's almost like we're going to, I'm not saying that they don't believe it. Some do, maybe some don't. And who's making these decisions anyway, right? Whoever it is that oversees PR, social media, etc. But what you're talking about, where you'll see a company do one thing in one place and another thing in another place, it's like, it ain't that different than the NBA, right? The NBA is like, they're super woke and worried about, certain rights issues in the United States. And then they're doing business with China and other places around the world where it's like, well, hey, wait a minute. Apparently you don't actually feel that strongly about this, because if you feel strongly about something in one place and then you don't suddenly have those same convictions when you're making mega dollars deals in another part of the world, I think it's fair to call into question what you really believe. Do you really believe any of it, or is it all just public posturing for the bottom line? And I think that that's what a lot of NFL teams are perceived to be doing by a bunch of people. And I think they kind of roll their eyes at it. And I think sometimes it's less about any sort of commentary on the LGBT community itself. And it's more about, oh my God, we're going to have to watch this game get played for 30 days where businesses do this dance that we all kind of understand what the steps are. What do you think about Shedeur, Ronnie? I want to get to that real quickly as well before we move into some other content. How bad do you think his interviews actually could have been? Because when Deion says, like, be serious, are you kidding me? I get where he's coming from, but on the other hand, if it was a nothing burger, as Deion would have us believe,
then the NFL doesn't think he's very good. Yeah.
Would have slipped that far. Right. What is
it? No, Ricky. So if Deion is correct, he's like, no, Shedeur knows how to handle himself. He has been prepped for this his whole life. He went in there and he handled his business like a true professional. Well, then what he's actually saying is the NFL doesn't think my kid's very good at playing quarterback. Like, you can't be both. Like, both of those things cannot be true. So,
and I don't think that's what it is either. I don't think 5th round picks are hyped as top 5 picks.
Right. But if Deion's right,
if they're not that good,
but Deion can't be right.
I don't think it's that.
Right. But Deion, so therefore, all of these things can't be right, Ricky. So it's one or the other. Like, he either handled himself in a very non-professional way.
He fucked the interviews up somehow.
Correct.
He fucked them up somehow. I just want to know what he did. If I would read the book about the 2025 draft, I would at least skim to the section where we talk about what happened in those interviews. I wish that we could get real, credible, leaked information from inside a couple of organizations to tell us what he did to so turn off so many GMs.
Now, the good news for Shedeur is he did get drafted. And as we've seen in super recent times, Brock Purdy was drafted the last pick of the draft, and he just signed a multi-year
$50 million a year deal.
Yeah. So you know what?
$250 over 5 years, something like that.
Yeah, we can talk all we want about Shedeur, what he did, what he didn't do, but you know what? Whatever happened to happen, and he now has an opportunity to prove everybody, including himself, that he is a top-notch quarterback. And if he does, he's going to be wildly rich. So he's got the chance.
Well, Ronnie, we got some breaking news coming across this morning. President Trump this morning declaring that large-scale fines are going to be slapped on the state of California after a transgender athlete that we talked about on the program yesterday won a couple of state championships, I believe in the long jump and the triple jump at the California Girls High School Track and Field Championships in Clovis, California, despite his warnings that these things were to cease happening. A.B. Hernandez, biological male, dominated. This individual, as we discussed on the program yesterday, Ron, set the national girls high school record in the triple jump earlier this year. California public schools have been put on notice. Department of Justice Assistant Attorney General for the Civil Rights Division, Harmeet Dillon, sending a letter to the California Interscholastic Federation detailing to them that they are in violation of the law and they've got a week to clean it up. You can see here the legalese. The wording in question says that all students, if we can cut back to that, please, what we just had on the screen. All students should have the opportunity to participate in CIF activities in a manner that is consistent with their gender identity, irrespective of the gender listed on a student's records. Now, that's quite a passage, because it's saying that you can participate in high school sports in the state of California in a manner that is consistent with how you feel, irrespective of what your biological sex actually is. You know, I taught sex and gender for 15 years, Ron, at the college level. I developed the curriculum for sociology of sex and gender in 2007 at my old college. And I have come to conclude that the concept of gender has done more damage than good in society. Gender, I used to teach gender is social expectations. Now identity is where it comes up most in everyday conversation. But it used to be that you would say, well, gender roles, gender norms would be things like, obviously I'm an exception, but women wear their hair longer than men. women wear makeup and men don't. I'm an exception to that too, because I'm wearing my camera makeup right now, right? But women wear dresses and men don't. I'm an exception to that also. No, I'm just kidding, Ron. I'm as far as you guys know, but I am wearing pants. But that there are, girls play with dolls, boys play with action figures. Girls wear pink, little boys
figurines.
wear blue,
they're called figurines,
etc. I love figurines. J.R. Richard is, look at that. It's a great picture. We used to talk about it in those terms, the social expectations that go with what your biological sex is. Have a look at her, huh? Look at that. Look at those lips. Look at those eyes. She's made up.
Nice hair.
I'm telling you right now. Nice hair as well. Woo. She's she's at least an 8, Ron. What do you think? What do you give her on the old 10-point scale?
I'm just wondering I'm just wondering if the carpet matches the drapes.
Oh dear God. Oh dear God. Ron, you can find fun stuff like this in Ricky Cobb's Rewind newsletter. By the way, just head over to outkick.com/newsletters. That is outkick.com/newsletters, where all you got to do is enter in your email address that you use for such things, sign up, and we're going to drop Ricky Cobb's Rewind into your inbox every 2 weeks. Yeah, that's right. Features such as the Margarita Mailbag, Super 70s Yourself. You can send me your photos. People have asked me many times through the years, can you caption a photo of me? Well, you're goddamn right I can. Send me something good. We'll caption it. Maybe you'll make it into the newsletter. Maybe you'll even be named the sweetest bastard at some point, because that's another little feature that we're going to have. We're going to have all kinds of stuff in this newsletter. I've been having a ton of fun putting it together and kind of conceptualizing what it's going to be. The main thing is we want to give you content there that you can't get at Super 70s and that you can't necessarily get on this program either. I'm calling it your backstage pass to all things Super 70s sports and the Ricky Cobb Show. Again, it is free and you can unsubscribe at any time. So what the fuck do you have to lose? I know the answer to that. Not a goddamn thing. So go sign up, outkick.com/newsletters. Saquon Barkley, let's talk about football. We've got Armando Salguero waiting in the wings here. And Saquon Barkley, look, the iconic backwards hurdle that we saw last year, that is the signature play of his career. Take a look at this. Saquon recreating it for the cover of Madden 26. Have a look at that. It's like not even hard for him. Look how easy he makes that look. Let's get a look at the cover of Madden 26 here. Or we could just watch that 800 times, whatever you guys would prefer to do. But there he is. Look at that. They converted that into Madden 26 cover, and there he is playing against, the random team that's just wearing, like the team from a movie there. But Saquon going over, what an incredible year he had in 2025. There's not going to be any way probably to match that again, but who knows? Maybe the Eagles can go back-to-back. Maybe he can get 2,000 yards again. Let's bring in a man who never has a down year here at OutKick. I speak, of course, of OutKick's senior NFL writer. He is, of course, the great Armando Salguero. Armando, how the hell are you, man?
I'm doing great, Ricky. Thank you so much for having me on.
Pleasure, as always, to see you. Look, Armando, you've got a piece up. We're talking about Dez Bryant at the beginning of the show today, and I want to start there with you. With Pride Month being what it is, I don't know. What have we got here, Armando? What's the latest count? Is it 10 teams that haven't acknowledged Pride Month yet? Something like that. tell me, first of all, what do you make of Dez's comments? And is Dez speaking for a silent contingent of active players in the league who would just rather not weigh in publicly on this?
Well, Dez definitely weighed in. So there's that. At the point where you're on social media to 3.2 million followers and you're telling them that you don't believe what the NFL is doing is proper, especially when you have kids among the fan base and he's got a 6-year-old. He is definitely all in on the debate. Here's the thing, though. I think he speaks for a large number of people that, number one, don't have a dog in the fight, don't care what people do in their bedroom, in the privacy of, being behind closed doors, and aren't feeling any sort of way about any sort of people. But when corporations, when companies, when governments, when police departments, when fire departments, when everybody, it seems like, starts to push an agenda, and in this case, we're talking about Gay Pride Month, and you see cop cars that are painted in rainbow colors, and you see fire trucks painted in rainbow colors, and you see grown men walking down the street in parades wearing bikinis in the presence of, toddlers. That makes people feel a little bit a certain way. And Dez Bryant's point is, we don't care what you do, but we do care when it's all up in our face. That was his message. And I think it spoke to a lot of people.
Every once in a while, you tweet things that aren't, like haha funny sports captions or funny about movies or pop culture or things like that. Sometimes you educate the public. And you have a tweet that was one of my very, very favorites because it was a crazy fact. And it's about John Tyler, our 10th president.
Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead, if you want to go ahead and say what's so fascinating about him.
Yeah, I love this. And I probably tweeted this one twice a year for the last 2 or 3 years. John Tyler was America's 10th president, and he was born in 1790. Okay, this guy was president, he was 6 ahead of Abraham Lincoln, is all that I'm saying. Okay, born in the 1700s until this week, and I know where you're going with this, Ron. Until
you're going to have to retire this tweet.
He still had a living grandchild. I think that is one of my all-time favorite what the fuck facts of all time, that a guy could be born in 1790 and have a grandchild, not a great-grandchild, not a great-great-grandchild, a regular grandchild. Come here and sit on President Tyler's lap, grandchild, right? Who died just a few days ago.
Yeah, at the age of 96. His name was Harrison Ruffin Tyler, and he died at the age of 96. And so sadly, you are either going to have to retire this tweet or rework the tweet. But the
Constitution was ratified 3 years before John Tyler was born. And he just had his grandson die. I heard Joe Rogan say this one time, and it is true when you really think about it. The United States, we are such a young country.
Oh gosh, yes.
We think of America as having been here for forever, but we're roughly around 250 years old, right? Next year is the 250, and we're going to be celebrating it, getting a little bit of bicentennial energy going in this country, which I think is a good thing, because we are experiencing a national crisis of a lack of patriotism and feeling good about America, Ron. So I'm all on board for that next year. But you think about it, 250 years is like 3 people's lifetimes.
Yep.
We just don't tend to see it in one family tree because, the men are usually not that sexually active
At
when they're in their
83.
70s and
At
80s.
83.
Yeah. Right. Tends to be
Belichick.
not happening. Yeah, but Belichick.
You're
Belichick
going to be able
may
to
be
tweet
trying
that
to
about
start
Belichick.
that lineage.
You are.
Yeah,
You're going
in
to
the
be
year
able to tweet that about
2500. But like you think about it, Belichick, like if you were going to do the same math, Belichick's what, 73?
Yep.
Let's say that he knocks her up. That means Belichick was
That's
born in
happening.
what,
That's happening.
1952, maybe?
Mhm.
All right. Belichick was born in 1952. If he has the same thing happen from the time that Tyler was born until Ruffin died, that was 235 years. So 235 years from 1952 is the year 21.
2380 something.
Okay. Or 20, yeah, like 21.
2280.
Well, is that, no, you're right. Okay.
2280.
So yeah, it would put you into like 2280. Could you imagine Bill Belichick having a living grandchild in 2280? That's what we're talking about here. It's absolutely crazy. Sky Point to Harrison Ruffin Tyler.
Yeah.
Super Sky Point, in fact. That's right. He deserves a super Sky Point.
Absolutely.
Not a regular Sky Point. So yeah, so I'm a little sad, not only for his passing, but I lost one of my favorite periodic tweets. If you like what you saw on today's show, head over to outkick.com/newsletters and sign up for Ricky Cobb's Rewind. We're going to have great stuff coming to you every 2 weeks via email. It's absolutely free, and you can stay on top of everything that we're doing on the program.